How you feeling, Phil?
Fine, thank you.
Well, that's so good. You want to talk about another quiet, meticulous craftsman? Holy
Um,
mackerel! You said to me, "I'd like maybe to try my hand at the note sheet just to see if it would be okay." And then he brought in some product that just kind of blew me away. And all I could think of when I saw your first sheet was, "Man, I am not worthy." Oh my God, it was so good. Let me get this thing. Let me get the recording started. Or did I keep recording? Oh, I'm still recording. Beauty. So I don't have to say that all again. In another line of never-ending line of craftsmen that are in here that appreciate what actual hard work is. I know what it is because I've done hard work and I've spent the rest of my life trying to avoid it. So I recognize it in others. And Phil, I'm just going to turn it over to you with some insights from also going through the foundation. So let me just say for the record that, the foundations course is 4 courses because why not? And it has about 50 or 80, I don't know how many, 50 or 80 hours of material. And then people go through that over a 10-week period and then ask me weekly questions, and those questions get answered in a painfully long way. And then the Q&A sessions become part of that growing body of knowledge. Well, like everything that accumulates or gets accreted periodically, you got to go back in and clean the garage and organize it. And that was in my primitive monkey mind what I'd hoped these guys could help me do. And then they turned it into a beautiful little chapel. I think of it more like a gazebo with a walking path and points of interest along the way. And I'm so tickled pink that any of that stuff you guys find helpful. I can't get over that. So, Phil, uh, share your screen and have at it, and let's go.
okay, yeah, thank you for the opportunity to present before this team. Let's see. Go to the presentation view. Let me see.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Looks good.
Okay. Oh, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to present before the team. Going through the my experiences with doing the Cornell note sheet on the foundations, FAQ, as well as the strategy podcast, the bar by bar analysis. As a way of background, I have a chartered market technician certification. I retired back in 2016 after over 40 years with IBM. Was mostly started my career in it's actually circuits and memory design for semiconductor chips, and then went on to management and program management. I started to take investing trading courses back in 2008. My first introduction into that was we call it Invest Tools. That was a 2-day class that helps, and so that got me interested in trading and investing. I've been primarily an options trader and long-term investor prior to joining Ken's teaching. And so now hybrid trading, the concept is resonating more with me. And I'd like to develop plans to get me in that direction. By way of overview for this presentation, I wrote Cornell notes on 25 different recording sessions. It was the foundations question and answer session in April, and the Tortoise Nightly Strategy podcast from January through March. So a total of 25 sessions. And this presentation is my lessons learned from those recordings and select 20 the insights from those 25 sessions, and to commit to an action plan based on those insights, and to review that with accountability partner for the year ahead. Okay, so as way of introduction, wanted to step you through the Cornell note sheet. This is on the strategy podcast, the by bar analysis. So the upper left-hand corner is the reference information for the podcast, the date and the duration. And then this is an outline of the strategy podcast. So the first part is the can go through the SPY daily health, and that's shown in this table here. It shows the different levels at that particular time. And then the market and the daily, Tortoise daily reports. That's the market today, and the daily reports. They're shown here on the right. It just summarizes what information was given for that particular podcast. And then the bar by bar analysis, and that's shown in this table here. And shows for the trade one, what was the situation prior to entering the trade? What are the long entry and short entry setups, or the levels? And what are the planned stop management technique? And then the actual trade events. And so in this case, there was a plus 5XR before exiting the position. And then the next trade moves on to trade number 2. And it's basically a continuation of trade 1. And it goes through the same setup and what the results were from the second trade, and on to trade 3, and so forth. So in retrospect, actually, this data here could be entered and analyzed to provide more of a team view in terms of what the performance was. So there was several out of the 14 podcasts from the strategy podcast. There were several with positive gains, some with losses, some exited with no lose plus dinner for 2, some that showed a 10 to 30x XR gain, and to come up with a, since there were several traders involved in these decisions, to come up with a group level histogram on the results, and what type of trading decisions did they make? Did they choose to do a reframe or a stop and reverse? So it would be interesting to analyze how that team performed. And actually, a second point for this bar by bar, I do agree with Ken's assertion that this forward testing is very useful. I have done quite a bit of AMI broker using the TradeStation backtesters and even Quintopian. And this forward testing does add a new dimension, an added dimension that backtesters don't do. This takes into account the trader's psychology. For example, should I stop and reverse? Should I enter the trade? Should I reframe? So that element is not included in a backtest. So the psychological aspects for testing is captured with this bar by bar approach. Then, oops, I think there is a section here also on psychology, and then in terms of systems, and then there's a section on overall synthesis. What insights was gained from this podcast, and then what actions will I be taking based on what I learned from this podcast? So if we step through, the approach that I took was I reviewed 25 different podcasts, and the approach I took was to look at the self section, for example, and then out of the self to pick the top two that I felt had resonated the most with me from the foundations, and the top two that resonated most for me in terms of strategy. I think from this experienced team here, a lot of these will just reinforce what you already know. But I'll go through the first one in terms of self trading success. Trading is hard, as in any other business, and to make money, you have to treat it as a business, because we're competing with all the hedge fund seasoned professionals, and so you should approach it with the same degree of due diligence. And another point was in terms of developing good professional habits. So Ken uses the analogy of building little bricks every day, and don't put too much into any single trade. What you want to do is start building up little by little. You don't want to put all your poker chips on the table, but to build little by little. And at the end of the day, you should end up with a positive expectancy. The other point was to be like Walmart. Don't have any emotional connection to your inventory. And you're basically, in trading, you're basically just buying and selling and trying to capture the difference. The other point was to be mentally prepared to enter both long and short trades at any given time, because we don't really know which direction the price is going. We have to rely on the momentum. But if you followed the risk reward to risk ratio, we should end up with a positive expectancy, even though we may see a string of small losses along the way. Okay, so the next section then tries to capture the system portion of the Cornell note sheet, what the top ones were from my perspective. One was the 80-20 rule, to spend 20% of the time on the basic frame setup, but 80% of the time should be spent on adjustments and refining. So really get into the trade, don't spend so much time trying to pick the best, but get in the trade and then manage the trade. Then Ken goes through for a starting person as to what sequence of patterns should we focus on. And so Ken lists out the supported spring crossing and so forth as a way to step through and gain the muscle memory. This next one, in terms of trade management, it's one thing to do a lot of planning, but you really just have to get in and then manage the trade to no lose plus limit for two. And then, as Ken says, the rest is a science project. And so the main thing is trade management. If you don't do trade management, you could lose an otherwise winning trade. Next one, in terms of the trade process, the team, in front of them, they had a list of questions. What should you do? What do you see? What could you do? Which way would you trade? And so forth. So I printed this out. I have this on my wall as a list of questions that, to help remember when you're in a trade what questions to have. The next section in the Cornell note sheet is the markets. So as the team here is aware, Ken has a very systematic top-down way to look at the market in terms of the indices, the sectors, and the companies with the sectors. And in the Tortoise Daily reports, some of the screeners, which stocks showed up in the screeners as a helpful guide to the team for the next day's trade. And then the next section is the synthesis part of the Cornell note sheet. The ones that I picked out were to have a professional mindset, to have a manageable span of control, and to ensure the focus on the trades in progress, to tune your different exit strategies to suit your personalities and so forth. And the main thing I think it's very important is to the idea that you have to build the muscle memory. And how do you build the muscle memory? That's through practice. And so the recommendation was to do 600 to 1,000 practice trades before entering a real live trade, to do the practice trades without real money first until you're comfortable. And in terms of a daily routine, we should look at our overall market health, and then to have candidates lined up, 3 long entries, 3 short entries, and to know ahead of time what you should be doing, so that the muscle memory would kick in afterwards, after you enter the trade. And next point was in terms of the trade process, to to try to manufacture the R, and going again of these little bricks one at a time to stack them up. So in terms of the what actions could I take based on the lessons learned, what I plan to do is to document my trading plan based on the learning that I had, and to start setting up my platform based on Ken's indicators and filters. And then to have, I have a trading diary. I bought a package that where you can enter your trade journal, and to change it to, or set it up so that it can support the Ken's type of trading style. And then first to do 600 to 1,000 paper trades to build up muscle memory. I think the Cornell presentation yesterday was reinforces this need to really do the paper trade first before stepping in, because of psychology. I think in intraday trading, psychology starts to play a bigger role. So you have to make sure that you have that under control. And then to start with live trading with very few shares, so that to build your expertise before. So my plan is to start slowly, to just stage in a very slow way towards hopefully profitability. Okay, so in summary, I've presented the key insights that I found from Ken's 25 different recordings. I do feel that the Cornell note-taking approach was a very structured approach to synthesize the information. I do have quite a bit of kudos to Ken in terms of the rich content. Each of the sessions had a little nugget of additional information that prior sessions didn't have. So I was quite impressed with the content. And so now based on this learning that I've gained, I'm a little bit more comfortable now with attempting intraday trades. So I have a plan to, so if the paper trading and trading with small sizes will work out, then I'll continue with that journey. And I'll review it with my accountability partner, Griffin Cooper, who presented earlier, on a monthly basis. Well, that's all I have. Any questions?
Magnificent
I have a
work.
question.
Yes.
Phil, I have two questions. Thank you for the presentation. That list of questions that you put on the wall, I thought that was very useful. So you probably glance up and try and answer each one as you're analyzing the task, huh? That was very useful. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead and unshare that.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead and unshare the screen.
Oh,
You
sorry.
can see our big faces out there.
Let's see.
And then you made a reference to a trade journal package that you had purchased so that I suppose that's for entering your trade, for accountability, right? So what was that package that you found?
Oh, it's just one moment. How do I stop? Oh, stop share. Okay. Sorry. It's a package that I purchased. It's called TJS. I'm not sure I forget what the acronym stands for.
Trading journal spreadsheets.
Oh, trading journals. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and once upon a time, if you entered the word tortoise you got it like $20 off or something like that. I don't know if it's still active.
Oh,
but it is so well worth the money. Beautiful. I'm a spreadsheet monkey, as you easily see. That guy is an Excel artist. It is beautiful work, and I can't over recommend it. It's really nice package. Over.
Well, Phil, you mentioned you could tailor it to what Ken's methods, and I'm wondering because I see, and sometime this weekend I saw this big Excel spreadsheet that has like the histogram and the trading record and your R values, and I mean, is that available somewhere, or do I have to write that whole thing?
Oh yeah, no, that's mine. That's downloadable from the chat room. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
That's just my monkey. That's my back of the envelope monkey spreadsheet for tracking what I really need. The trading journal worksheet is beautiful, does all of those same things, but allows easily edited lessons and text and commentary. It's a genuine journal. I mean, my little spreadsheet is just kind of a monkey looking at results.
And so, Phil, does the information flow through from your trades to that, or do you manually enter it at the end of every day?
No, that one you have to manually enter it.
Okay.
But guess what? You at some point you got guys in this room that know how to take exported trading log from a broker into a text file with a Python script to import into CSV. Worth is already rubbing his hands in joy over there. Wow. So yeah, that can be made easy.
That was one of Worth's modules that you said you developed over.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's my questions.
I feel really, really good work. Super work. This has been very, very helpful. And I think one thing that you really mentioned in the Cornell note sheet that is really key is the decisions that are made during the trade, right? And how do you capture those? Those I find, at least, that's where the assess part comes in. Looking at those, the context of why decisions are made. I think those are super, super important.
Yeah.
So excellent work on capturing all that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, the just the background on that Cornell note sheet. There's the basic Cornell note sheet is offered to the world by Cornell University about how to do structured reading and then note taking. And I've added those extra pieces in there based on my experience of teaching grad school and trying to synthesize massive amounts of information for my very busy military officers. So all the lessons I teach for the Army and for my doctoral students, I use that one-page template as the lesson design and then build out the components of a lesson. And then I share that note sheet with them. And over the last 5 years, with hundreds of military officers, the guys on our teaching team all have adopted that method. Our score on all forms of assessments are 5 percentage points higher than the rest of the other members of the college in every department, to the point where the dean has come and asked us, what are you guys doing? And it's driving them to do standardized objective tests because they thought we were cheating. Because, trust and truth and safety, that's how we operate. And it just flat out works. And when I say 5 percentage points, I'm talking about an environment in which the standard deviation is less than 2%. So the average score on a test is 90 plus or minus, call it 2%. And we're scoring 95 on average when the rest of the college is scoring 90 plus. So that's a 2 sigma deviation. And if you're in adult education, the single largest challenge in the world is to overcome the 2 sigma deficit. And this is what that is, the 2 sigma problem. It's called Bloom's taxonomy is used to design levels of learning and how you organize large scale adult learning. If you put 600 people in an auditorium and put a sage on the stage to lecture, and then have everybody take an objective test, the average score, let's say, is 90. And it'll have, say, a standard deviation of 2. That means someone who's in the upper 90, the 95th or higher percentile is scoring 94, right? If you take an individual who scored 90, an average student who scored an average grade on that test of 90, and then you pair them with that senior sage on the stage and do one-on-one tutored instruction, and then have them take the same test, that person scores a 94. There is a 2 standard deviation improvement by doing one-on-one coached, personalized instruction at the hands of an expert. It's worth 2 standard deviations. That is significant. That's the standard in all social science research for having an actual effect, that there's something fundamental that's happening that's not noise. 2 sigma standard. So when we use this, so everybody in education is saying, well, you can't afford to have one-on-one tutored instruction. So how do we overcome that 2 sigma performance problem? So that's been more well studied than anything. There's about 30 or 40 different techniques that have been tested, and each one of those techniques contributes towards buying back some of that 2 sigma problem. It turns out that the best ones are peer instruction and student as teacher. So what I do is use the Cornell note sheet as a safety net. I have my students take turns in small groups of 4, teach each other portions of the lesson, and they get to teach part of the lesson, and then they are on the receiving end of the lesson from one of their peers. And now in a group of 16, I have 4 micro lessons going on instead of one giant lesson, me lecturing to 16. There are 4 micro lessons going on, and they're getting the combined effect of being a teacher and then being taught by a peer. Peer instruction is powerful because of the following issue. It's called the curse of knowledge. Stephen Pinker says that when you know something, it's almost impossible. In fact, he says it's impossible to imagine what it's like not to know that thing. And so when I teach the things that I teach from the basis of 30 years of knowing it, it's impossible for me to remember what it's like not to know those things. And so that affects the way that I teach. The person who's in the best position to teach you the moment of insight is the person who a few seconds ago didn't get it, and then suddenly, aha, they got it. There was something in what they just experienced that moved them from not knowing to knowing. And so when you put peers together, they're in the best position to help the other person see the same insight that they just had. So monkey see, monkey do. It's like, hey, I didn't know this thing, and then this thing happened, and now I know it. And then they share that story. Oh, and the true story that they tell is in a safe place, a trusted place, a truthful place, and that generates the opportunity. It's like popcorn popping. So the sage on the stage actually has to shut up more and create the conditions in which learning can occur. And that's what you're seeing with Phil and Griff, who have rapidly synthesized all those lessons. And without even taking the foundations course itself, they just started with the Q&As. And 10 weeks later, dude, they're on it. They got an action plan and off they go. So the curse of knowledge, peer instruction, being on the spot to teach it is how you learn it fastest. And then the Cornell note sheet is kind of the blueprint that says, for industrial design and production, this will do you no harm. And here's how you have a reference sheet. And now you can keep going back to the blueprint and study each little component as needed, confident that you haven't missed anything. You don't have to keep all that stuff in your head perfectly and then remember what to do in the moment. You can just do what you're doing. And then you can navigate back and forth between the practical experience in the workshop, your workshop where you're crafting, and the blueprint that talks about, it's like Chilton's auto manual of the wiring diagram of your engine, So that's what I wanted to say about the Cornell note sheet as a learning technology. That system has generated more than 2 sigma difference in performance by Army officers on a wide range of strategy, tactics, history, leadership, change management, and logistics. More than 2 sigma for more than 5 years in a learning laboratory. And it turns out that the quantity of information that you have to learn compared to what they have to learn is similar. And it's the same challenge. And their challenge to learn those things so that when they go back to the world, lives are at stake on the decisions they make and the teams they create and the leader skills that they use to build teams in defense of the nation with skin in the game. That is 95% overlap with what you're doing as traders. And I'm being honest there. I got a foot in both camps. I see it every day. When I'm talking to traders, I see the connection to combat and leaders and learning under stress. And when I talk to my military officers, I use the things that we learn about trading and decision-making under stress to help them see what we're doing. There is a mutually reinforcing connection between those two that's worth learning. So the Cornell note sheet, best thing I ever did, except for the 4-column learning journal, which is the foundation for how I modified the Cornell note sheet. The easiest thing in the world to have done would have been to just use the Cornell note sheet as issued. But adding those little structured pieces around the central content forces you to put even more learning lessons in a smaller space, so it drives you to synthesis. And that's the connection between objective and artistic knowledge, is that connecting gearbox. And that's beautifully illustrated by the work that Griff and Phil have done. And I wanted to say that for the record. I know good work when I see it, because I know how hard it is to do it. And what these guys have done is masterful. So, Aho. Others. Tom.
Thank you, Phil. It's a beautiful work of art. It's what I felt like watching you just take us through how you, for me, felt painstakingly deliberate, intentional summaries and breaking it into parts. And I'd build on Ken H's comment of those bar by bar analysis. And it's not just the process that Ken coached people through in that. It was also the seeing the psychological aspects of what people were going through in their thinking process, which is the often unspoken part of trading, as I'm learning it, and helping make that become visible so we can learn to manage it and use the reframe as a way to reset and come back to the zero state. So that was a big aha for me, just listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me say, that's from two guys who were in those sessions having the bar by bar surgery being performed on their own brain in public. And so that was a considerable emotional learning moment for them in the middle of that. And that's one thing. But for them now to be able to move to the observation deck next to you and to hear you talking through their experience is a disembodied, powerful exposure to the idea of psychological parts. They are now getting to see their own experience through another person's lens. It's like on YouTube, some of the best stuff you ever saw is the reaction videos. When I watch a drum teacher listen to a drum solo, talking about what that's like. And then the next level of that is when you see a reaction video by the artist reacting to somebody reacting to their own performance. I've watched some reaction videos where Sammy Hagar is watching somebody react live to a Sammy Hagar video. And it is the best you ever saw. I'm serious. It's so good. So that's what the power of that bar by bar, plus the learning technology, plus the storytelling, plus the community of practice and team building in that safe, trusted space. So I should also say that the 30 hours of bar by bar trading, you guys will have access. I'm going to make that a lesson in one of the resource areas. I just think that that's too important not to put into this Rizuku workshop space. And at some point, we'll have the you and Griff have already started on some of those pieces, but the intern work of decompressing all of those and putting it into training video, the intern that does that work has an immense payoff. The people who observe the intern doing the work have a payoff. The trader getting to see their own work through the eyes of others has a payoff. It's the engine. I want you to think of the power of the water wheel that turns the millstone, that grinds the grain that the village grows. But there's more than that. The drive shaft that is connected to the water wheel turning also created the Industrial Revolution because they figured, oh, that thing will not only just turn the mill, but what's it doing when there's no grain to grind? Oh, you can actually do a power takeoff lever, and you can actually run spinning jennies, and you can drive all your industrial operations off of that central turning power shaft so that you have continuous free power. The power of the water wheel. That's why the mill was so darn important. And I was thinking, in conclusion, my last comment on this will be, hey, I'm just making bricks and then making a wall. Imagine the audacity of some naive teenager, kid, child, love them, walking up to a master mason and saying, hey, you're just making bricks. And then you stack them and make a wall. And then you think about the big bad wolf and the brick house, the three little pigs. Yeah, I'm making a wall that's going to stand for 100 years against the power of nature. I don't know if you've seen nature lately, but she has a vote. So yeah, I'm just making bricks here. Sure, that's all I'm doing. I'm just making bricks. And the key word there is the word just. Listen to the difference in these two sentences. I'm just making bricks. I'm making bricks. That's the entire world of difference right there. I'm just making bricks. I'm making bricks. And behind me, you see the Great Wall still there. So well done, Phil. I want to once more quick around the horn, but we got about 40 minutes before Jeff comes back on to get us through. So I want to preserve some time for you guys to do lunch and respect, Jeff's time because they're in London and it's late. So I want to start promptly at 2 for Jeff and then and get us going. So yeah, it's Jeff. Then Lisa should be able to talk to us at 3 Central, and then Luke dialed in from Australia. So I need to get us kind of on that time schedule. So well done, Phil.
Thank you.
There were no systems presented this morning except the ones that matter. The stuff that Phil, Griff, and Tom did, those are actually the systems that matter, the systems of self and your relationship to the world. So well done, fellas. And we will see you at in 40 minutes. Take good care.